Welcome to Kettlebell Corner, where strength meets theory, where we take you on a deeper dive into all things kettlebells. And are you somebody who is told the snatch is a swing that ends overhead, or it's just simply a swing with a clean, and then, it gets up to the top somehow? Well, you've been learning it all wrong if that's what you've been told. And I'm not even going to say the cliche, the snatch is this of the kettlebell world, because that's stupid. But we're going to help you fix and or learn how to do the snatch today. What snatch? Your snatch. Roger, what's up?
Nothing. I'm here to talk about kettlebells.
Okay.
The thing is, we've been chatting. We've been chatting for like 15 minutes, and then you come in and act like, "Oh, it's nice to see you." Like, I'm not going to recreate everything, all the stupid things we talked. Should we really tell all the people what we talked about before we started recording? Do you think that's a good look for us?
Not for this podcast. I don't think it's a bad look. I think it might be another entertaining podcast, but I don't think it applies to kettlebells.
Maybe that's what people really want to see.
We like to be specific here. Hey, maybe it is. We could do a subscriber bonus episode.
Sure,
all right, Roger.
Yes.
So first thing I want to do, and for the record, Roger's doing okay. I just made that up. I don't know actually how he's doing. It seems good.
Delightful.
For this, we want to talk about two things, and I want to talk about what a snatch is not and what a snatch actually is. And what it is not, Roger, it is not a swing plus a clean. And why is it not a swing plus a clean? And what is a snatch once you determine why it's not that? Tell me. Go now.
I think this is common enough when people are taught, and I think it leaks into the kettlebell lore or kettlebell dogma. Originally, it was a snatch was a swing that ends overhead, and people realized that was dumb. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the first one I heard say that was Dan John. I don't know if he was the one who popularized that or not, but if you're listening to this, Dan, which I know you're not,
yep.
You caused a lot of pain for me and my friend because we took you literally.
Yeah.
And, the defense of that is, well, you should know better. It's like, no, you should not be teaching and depend upon your students to know when to ignore the stupid things you say. So,
okay,
let's get that out of the way.
No, put that over there.
that was how it evolved. And then the know-it-alls were like, no, it's actually a clean that ends overhead. Like, okay, no, it's not that either. A snatch is a snatch. And at the end of the day, I don't care. It's semantics, and arguing about semantics is not very useful, in my opinion, most of the time. And this is one of those times. Why we're calling this out is this idea that is a swing plus a clean, or a clean that ends overhead, or a swing that ends overhead. Anything, a snatch is a snatch. We want to avoid this idea of breaking it down into parts.
That's
just before we break it down into parts. Just to be clear.
Okay. I was like, because I have something else here.
we have to break it down into parts. But why we're telling you this now is we have to pull this thing apart to give you some familiar sensations. I love theory. I love thinking about this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. But to learn a skill, the most effective way is almost always feeling the right things. So we're going to give you some things that you should feel. We're going to try to ground this lift, which can be confusing to people, in some things that are familiar. So in one sense, you're going to get some sensations from a swing and a clean, and you're going to put them together, and you're going to end up with something like a snatch. But we want to give you this caveat at the beginning because we don't want you to look at it as two separate things. We want you to remember that it's one thing. It's one nice, smooth movement. And when it clicks, you'll understand that. So we are going to break it apart. And sometimes it's taught in its broken apart way. And people don't say, hey, we're teaching you this sensation and this sensation, and when you put them together, you're going to get a snatch and make it seamless. Sometimes people will just leave it in its exploded state and say it's this plus this, and it can lead to a lot of learning errors, a lot of pain in some cases. So we want to get that out of the way. A snatch is a snatch. It's got some things you're familiar with, and we're going to talk about what those are. But don't look at this as this plus this equals this. That's not what we're after.
This isn't math, everybody.
No,
This
it
is
is not
movement.
math.
This is movement. You like that? That should be on a t-shirt. All right. Well, some of the parts that we're going to dive into are, in fact, those two parts. We decided that those were the prerequisites. We don't want to solely rely on those, but if you take a swing with some of its requirements and a clean with some of its requirements, they're not going to particularly add up, like you said. But what are those requirements that we need from those particular skills to get us to that snatch?
And that's a question I like. Not it's this plus this, but what are we learning from each of these lifts? From a swing, you were learning how to make a bell ballistic. You were learning leg drive. You were becoming aware of how to bend your legs and then straighten your legs in order to make a kettlebell move at a particular rate. You have learned, if you have a swing, you have learned the difference between a grind and a ballistic. You have learned how to make the bell float. And that's a very important thing for a snatch. You can learn a snatch as your first ballistic lift. There's no reason why you can't. Sure. People don't usually, though. So we're going to make the assumption that if you're learning the snatch, you have some familiarity with swing and you have some familiarity with the clean. That's the main stuff you're going to get from the swing. You're going to get a lot of that arm to body contact. The basic rules when the bell gets heavy, all of those things that you've learned, whether they're implicit or you understand them, you've gotten those from the swing. What are we taking from the clean? We're taking the redirection of the bell. We're taking a different path. Whereas a swing, you're not going to need to do much. You know, people talk about taming the arc. There's not much arc to tame with a swing. It just kind of goes where it goes. You don't let it get away from you. You don't let it bully you. Other than that, a swing does what a swing does, and it's not that complicated. However, when you're dealing with a snatch, you have to take what would ultimately become a horizontal trajectory or largely more horizontal trajectory of a bell and making it more vertical. So that's one of the main things that clean is going to teach you is to take a bell. How do you get a kettlebell to be ballistic, but not fly out in front of you as far as it can? So we're really learning the idea of changing the trajectory. And we also have, even though they are different, the path is different. You know, if you watched our episode on cleans, I talked about not really caring for the zip your zipper cue because zippers are vertical. And if you look at the path of a clean, it's diagonal.
Yeah.
The path of a clean is not the same as the path of a snatch. It ends up in a different place, not just overhead, but in one situation, it ends up in the rack on the outside of your forearm. And in the snatch, it ends up completely rotating behind your, it's going to end up in the same place on your wrist or on the back of your forearm, but it's rotating over your hand. Whereas the clean is kind of wrapping around your hand, two different things. So we've got a different path, but we do have two pulls. So similar
to the clean and the snatch.
Yeah,
there's two,
in the clean and the snatch. So you got to learn how to keep the bell close with the first pull, and you got to learn how to redirect the bell with the second pull.
So when he's talking about keeping the bell close, in case you didn't check out that clean episode, which shame if you didn't, and if you didn't, you know, you can relieve that shame by going and checking it out. But he's talking about pulling that arm to the body in that backswing position. So you're in the backswing, you're really keeping that bell, that arm tight to your body when you drive up. And then when you're in that standing position and you've expressed the leg drive, that's when you begin the redirect pull, which then puts it into the clean. But obviously it's different for the snatch, and we'll cover how to get into that here too.
Let's pause.
Okay.
Because I think this is one of the most important things. If you have these prerequisites, especially if you have a swing, this is what I think screws people up more than anything. So let's bracket it because we want to try to be useful. Why you don't want to look at a snatch as a swing plus a clean is the tendency is to perform the leg drive of a swing and then as an afterthought, pull the bell back, redirect it. And it doesn't quite work out that way. What happens is the bell will still get away from you. It gets really clunky. You end up pulling a lot either with the neck or with the elbow. The first pull is going to happen immediately. You're pulling the arm into your body as soon as the leg drive begins, not as the leg drive ends. And that's the tendency if you chunk these two into two separate skills, the tendency is drive your legs entirely and then redirect the bell. Redirecting the bell is already happening as you are pulling the arm in close to your body. Now, there will be a point once the bell gets up to the, let's just call it, let's not get into physics speak, but as it gets up to the right speed, the bell is going to start to float up on its own, and it's going to be easier to manipulate. So what people will see as the second pull, which is a very obvious tug of the elbow back behind the body, that's going to happen after the leg drive is pretty much fully expressed. But a lot of the force to keep the bell close has already begun. So it's not do the leg drive, then do the pull. The feet are going to push into the ground. And if your arms are tight to your body, you're not going to have to stand up very far as long as you have a reasonable sized bell and you're sufficiently strong before that bell is already going up faster than gravity can go down. That's what's required. Why that's important is once the leg gets the bell going, you can pull it in any direction you want, and you're not providing a force, you're not providing a propulsive force. You're not actually getting the bell to lift, you're getting the bell to redirect. So you can begin this redirect really early, almost as soon as the snatch starts, but you're not going to see a really pronounced tug until the legs are really finished expressing themselves. And what I like to tell people is to think about finishing the hips as the elbow pulls back. So when I do it, it's thumbs are going in opposite ways. And if for those of you listening and not watching, I've got the backs I'm making fists, and I've got my thumb, they're touching, and my thumbs are going in opposite directions. And this, for whatever reason, visually tends to help clients. What's happening is your hips are shoving forward. Okay. So that's going to be partially some of the horizontal trajectory that you're going to get, but the elbow's pulling back in opposite directions. So if you can imagine a two-headed arrow, you got kind of an equal and opposite. And what happens is you're already beginning the pull as soon as the leg drive happens, but you're emphasizing that second pull as it finishes. As the bell is moving forward because the hips have finished, and as the elbow is tugging backwards as the hips finish, you have two pulls. The bell doesn't know what to do.
It's going to float there magically forever.
Well, it's going to go up because it can't go forward because your elbow's tugging it back, but it can't go too far back because your hips are shoving it forward. So the bell gets confused. It's like, who do I listen to, mom or dad? And so
now
I'm
is
just
it a
getting out of here.
dumbbell?
I'm going straight up in the air. Right.
Yeah.
So you really want to think about this pull being continuous throughout the snatch, but there's going to be an emphasis as the leg drive finishes or as you come to standing. And that's a really kind of tricky point. But if you don't use your arm or your back at all, as the legs are beginning to push on the ground, the bell's going to get away from you. But if you start to pull too much and really try to redirect it, then you haven't gotten the bell going fast enough, and you're going to end up pulling the bell with your arm and your back. And I don't know if that was more confusing or less confusing, but it's something to think about. And once you get it, you'll be like, oh, that's what that idiot was saying.
Yeah, so I think that kind of set the framework really well. You check in with the leg drive, so it's got to be powerful, jumping without jumping, right? Just pushing down or whatever it requires. I mean, more or less for the bell size that you have, that you're snatching over. You turn that volume up if you need to, and it's weightless because of your lower body, not because your arm pulled it up. It's not front raising. Just as he said, that coordinated movement of the pull and the standing creates that. The reason we have that clean check-in is if you can get a soft clean, then you probably know how to control that redirection, Roger. And then ultimately when you get overhead after a few of the drills we're going to share with you, you'll be like, oh, okay, I get this now. And it'll land safely without that dreaded clunky bang that everybody's like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm going to blow my back out. My wrist is going to explode. I assure you none of that will happen if you follow the algorithm, which is in another episode. So check that out too. Roger, not only do we want to break it down, but we want people to learn how to do the snatch. And if you know how to snatch, maybe this helps make your snatch better. We have 2 drills. Number 1, the elevator drill. Why are we doing that? How do we do that?
Elevator drill. and variations of it usually starts off with something that people will call a T-Rex swing, which is where you are, maybe you start with a regular swing. You get that down, but a T-Rex swing is where you have your upper arm glued to your torso. So you're only allowing, when the bell goes up, you're allowing your elbow to bend. So I think the idea is that you got like these tiny arms like T-Rexes have. So you're keeping the upper arm from the armpit all the way down to the elbow glued. So imagine executing a regular kettlebell swing, and at the top, your arm stays glued to your body rather than the upper arm lifting and going out in front of you straight. So what's going to happen is you're going to start to see, depending upon the size of the bell and how hard you swing it, you're either going to see a bell that ends up going straight out in front of you at 90 degrees, or it will actually start to bend and kind of come back up towards you. And once it starts to come back up towards you, that's when you can go into what would more properly be called the elevator drill. And that's when you're starting to keeping the arm bent, but you're starting to go higher and higher and higher. So as you drive your as you drive your legs a little bit harder rather, the bell's going to get higher, and it's going to get higher, and it's going to get higher. What you're doing is you're doing a few important things, which is why I really like this drill. And it's one of the only ones I do. Well, the other one too.
We have two.
Well, I do other things sometimes for special cases. So there are plenty of useful snatch drills, but with this particular drill, you're learning how to keep the arm close in the pull. So you're teaching the pull. I'm giving you a really simple tactile direction. Keep this here. You feel it. If your arm comes away from your body, you feel it. You know you're doing it wrong. Right? So that's really easy. It's binary. You get it or you don't. You are learning how to drive your legs a little bit harder, so the bell begins to go a little bit higher. And you're also desensitizing yourself. You're kind of creating more airspace is what I call it. So you're used to, if you're swinging or cleaning, you're used to, the kettlebell world kind of, ending at your chest level, at least when it comes to ballistics. But now suddenly we're bringing that bell higher and higher and higher. So with the elevator drill, you're going to start with that T-Rex swing, and then little by little, you're going to let your upper arm peel off of your body. You're going to try to keep that elbow bent. You want the bell, the trajectory, the path of the bell is going to be more vertical. And you're just going to get higher and higher and higher, and people will get more and more comfortable. What ends up happening is when you have a solid leg drive and you're comfortable with that bell starting to float up above you, all you got to do is punch. And very often people get their first snatch and the look on their face is like, what did I just do? Because it just kind of happens. And
it's a magical moment.
It's a very effective drill in many cases. And one thing that I've learned to do and tell people, commit.
Yeah.
Don't think that you not driving your legs down hard is going to make you less or driving your legs down hard is not going to make you more likely to get injured. It's going to make you less likely to get injured. If you're going to do the lift, do the lifts. Don't be timid about it. Drive your legs. Just like in the backswing of a swing. Don't think, oh, well, I don't want to bend back too much. It's going to hurt my back. Actually, it's going to save your back. When you're doing ballistics, you have to commit. And the more you commit, the safer you'll be. So if you're going to drive your legs to do the snatch, drive your legs. So that's elevator drill. That's drill number one. Most people get 80 to 85% of what they need out of that drill. And then the rest is just refinement. And those are very specific to individuals. And that's not anything that we can really help you with reasonably here unless we have a very specific context.
Yeah. But you can send a video and we'll take a look and
you
help your specific
can send
context.
a video and we'll gladly take a look.
And so I want to say that's the easy part, Roger. The easy part is getting it up there. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest part. Now it's sort of like, I remember this time my brother was young, Roger, and I'm going to share this just real quick. He was young and we were learning how to ride bikes, and we learned how to ride bikes. We're cool like that. And he would ride his bike up the hill and walk his bike down the hill because he was a little scared to ride his bike down the hill. And where I grew up there, it was like a real hilly area, believe it or not, in Flat, Nebraska. And one time we're like, yeah, you're riding down this hill. dude, you're either riding down this hill or you're not riding with us ever again. It was me and a couple of buddies and my brother, younger brother. And so he's like, fine. And he rides down the hill right into the back of a pickup truck parked on the side of the road. So the snatch, don't be like my brother and just get the snatch up there. Or you got to know how to get it down, Roger. That's
or
the
maybe
key.
Don't be like you, who's the mean big brother who told him to do something without explaining how to do it.
Look, he knows where the brakes are at. And it was funny because as soon as he saw he was coming to the truck, and I vividly remember this, not, as soon as he saw he was coming to the truck, he like his feet abandoned the pedals and he started like, ah. I'm like, oh no, this is not good. Anyways, he lived. We didn't even wear helmets. All right. So the point, I didn't crash into the truck. I flipped over the handlebars into a garage. But the point of that story is the way down is very important. Okay. So let's get this way down right. And we have a drill that I think is, and I think you agree, Roger, this is the best drill to teach the way down. And it helps take a segment of the snatch out of it. And although it does use the swing and the clean, right? Isn't this the weird part about this, Roger? We're talking the half snatch down.
Mostly, yes.
Yeah, because you're going to clean it. Well, I guess you're not using the swing. You're going to clean it, press it, and then you do the rest of it.
Yeah. So I've heard this, some people will say it's not a skill, it's a part of an exercise, or it's not a drill, rather. I don't care. Call it what you want. I've heard it called different things. Basically, what you're doing is you are practicing the way down. Before I have people do this with the bell, I have them pattern the drill. So I'm big on rehearsal. The snatch is going to end up, the hardstyle snatch is going to end up with your thumb pointing toward the middle of your body. So just to get the idea of that orientation, take your palms and lay them flat like they would be on your quads in your lap. Okay. That's your thumb pointing toward the middle, and then just raise your right hand like you're getting sworn in. You're in court again for some dumb shit you've done. But
well, got caught for, I think, is the proper way to say that.
when your arm is overhead, your thumb should be in toward the middle, not back towards you. Okay. You shouldn't be pointing back over your shoulder. You should be pointing toward the middle. So I start with this position and I have people start to bring their arm down, try to keep the point of the elbow in line with the palm rather than inside the palm or outside of the palm, because that's going to really torque the shoulder and make it bend in different ways. You want to see what your natural inclination is. You can't, most people, I can't anyway, keep the elbow straight in line with the shoulder. It's going to come out a little bit. The question is how much. Okay. So what I'm teaching people to do is there's a cue that I use later, and that's bring your tricep into your armpit. Squeeze your tricep into your armpit. Those are some tactile cues that you're going to get used to feeling, and you can check in with once you're in faster motion. So when you have your tricep, it's really close to the armpit. So when you're doing tactile cues, there's not a lot of space that needs to close. So you start to feel that. And once you feel that and you can keep your elbow in line with your palm, you know that you're starting to get the feel for the way down. Okay. So I'll have people just pull from the top, not just passive, but pull, get that squeeze. And then from this point, you're actually taking the arm, and you should know how to do this if you know how to clean. Because
you did the elevator drill.
The elevator drill, but you know how to clean. Now you're shoving the hand back through. You're shoving the hand back through into the backswing. So I will have you rehearse that, get those things down. And then what I'll often have people do is I will have them press a light bell and then start to pull the bell down in that position. Normally when you're doing a press, you'd start to spiral and let the thumb come back pointing towards you. But this is I come down from the top of the press and I have the thumb pointing toward the midline still. So you're getting used to this with a little bit of weight. And then once you're at the bottom, you go back, you shove into a clean, and then you do a press again, keep the hand in that position. So you're just getting comfortable with that. Once you're comfortable there, you do it faster. And
that's
it. That's why I did
all there's to it.
That's why I did
and practice your technique.
More of the setup. So there's a rehearsal, so you know the things you should feel. Then you start to add weight, and then you do it a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster. And soon enough, you're just letting the bell go. And then you're kind of feeling, you're getting that, you're keeping it close, and then you're learning how to shove the bell back into the backswing right at the right time. You'll know if you've done this right if you feel a little bit of a rebound off the hamstrings and the glutes. If you feel that elasticity, always with ballistic lifts, you should feel some elasticity if you're doing them right. So if you can shove it back into the backswing and get a nice rebound right into the clean, you know you're on the right track. So with those two drills, you've got the way up and you've got the way down.
And then you just put them together, and then you got the snatch. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and you know you've layered in these familiar sensations with these other lifts that you already have some proficiency in, which is why, again, it's not mandatory, but I do like, before I work on the snatch, I do like people to be able to swing and clean, because I've checked boxes. It's not the only way to do it, but I've checked boxes. I know as a coach, you've done all the things I need you to do, and if you can do both of these things, I know you can snatch. Whereas if I just teach you the snatch right away, I don't know what it is you know how to do. I don't know where the deficits are going to be.
Exactly. You're gaining that confidence in the person in front of you. Like you're like, okay, it's sort of like learning how to drive. You know, the first day you're not on the freeway. Okay. You better know how to drive out of your driveway and merge. Something we didn't put on the prep, but I was curious, and I know people are going to wonder, what is our grip like throughout all this? Loose grip, tight grip, does it matter? I mean, you know, that bell's going to spin in your hand, and there's all sort of things without getting, maybe there's a whole episode on grips for each thing, but what's our grip like? I personally like a lighter grip. I keep it very relaxed all the way up. I'm not even gripping it. Oftentimes I'll just have an open hand, and I don't know if I advocate that for beginners right away, but I'll just keep my hand open. And then just when I dump it back down, I catch it in the fingertips, or not the fingertips, but the fingers itself, and then grip it as it's reconnected to my body at the bottom.
I'd say that's similar to what I do. There are some grip options. You know, there is we talked about this before. There's a deep grip that you can do where you actually have your wrist not just straight but curled under, and you have the bell that tight. And as you come up, you're just going to let the wrist straighten up, and it's going to help you keep the bell even, you know, that much closer. Is that right for you? I don't know. It's certainly viable. It's probably not right for everybody. It's something I haven't practiced at length. So my understanding is there's not just a learning curve mentally, but physically you get some calluses in. Whereas, you know, when you have kettlebell hands, people tend to develop calluses at the base of their fingers. Whereas when you do this deep grip snatch, you tend to get a thicker callus in the middle of your palm. So that's something I'm told you need to develop. And people who do it swear by it. I think it's completely viable. I do think as coaches, we run into trouble thinking that the way it works for us is the best way for everybody. And I've never seen one thing work universally well for everybody. I've just never seen it. It might happen, but this is...
Except for maybe a leg drive. I feel like that's kind of universal.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Gotcha. That was a gotcha moment, Roger.
You got me.
Gotcha, bitch.
So the grip is designed to connect you to the thing. So whether it's a press, whether it's a snatch in this case, where you grip it is going to make a difference. So let's say you have a kettlebell in front of you. If you have, we'll call it handle parallel with the ground, so it's straight across, the dimensions of the bell and how much room you have to get into the backswing are going to change. Whereas if you turn that the thumb in, it's going to bring the bell in toward the middle of your body. And even though the bell is the same size, the handle is not as wide. So you will have a little bit more room. When you turn the thumb in and you grip more toward that side of the bell, you will be able to connect your arm to your body a little bit better for many people. Not everybody, many people, certainly bigger people. I don't know about you, Jeremiah. I don't know if you feel better with thumb in or pinky in when I have seen people with longer, leaner builds. And even though, you're not a small guy, you have a longer build, you may feel better with pinky back, because it keeps the path in line a little bit better. You're actually traversing less space. Could mean that you get less force, but it does mean that you have to use less energy to get the bell from point A to point B. So which side of the bell you grip on may make a difference. You may not want to grab right in the middle. You may want to grab more toward one of the horns. Some people will snatch at the top with a little bit of a rotation, and that's a different thing entirely. I'm not going to get into that because it's not really hard style specific. There are very few people do that. So I want to stay in my lane here.
And there's a lot of nuances as you get into your snatch practice. And like right now, just some basics, and this will get you up there. I personally like the thumb in on my hard style snatches. It is weird on the pinky, and I do understand that, but the difference is, yes, that power is a little bit less. Yeah. And in the other style of snatches I've been practicing, that is sort of something to get used to. Yeah.
Now, something to think about, which is another drill that I will give people when I know, especially when they argue with me, this one comes out, because it's a very subtle, quiet way of saying, I told you so, don't question me, is I will have people do the thumbless snatch.
Oh, yes.
And they are insistent, like, hey, you need to use your legs. I am using my legs. Okay, well, use your armless. I'm not using my arm at all. It's like, let's do a little experiment. I want you to do a snatch, and I want you to just take your thumb off. Take your thumb off the handle.
Like, hey, buddy.
Yeah, but still pointing toward the middle, whichever way it goes. Just take the thumb off the handle, and let's see what happens. And I haven't had an example yet where the bell didn't fall out of someone's hand.
Well,
so
hold on loosely, but don't let go, I guess is the word.
If you cannot snatch a bell without taking your thumb off the handle, then you are certainly pulling the bell up too much with your hand. Because with your thumb, unless it's a tiny, tiny bell, this is a different, that's a different story. But if you're using, a reasonable sized bell, you should be able to use your leg drive and just hook it with your fingers to keep it from moving out and away from you. Right. You can contain the bell and control its path without your thumb, but you can't pull it effectively. You can't cause the propulsion of the bell without your thumb. It's just not going to work, and you'll know immediately. So that might give you a little bit of insight into what exactly is necessary in your grip. Your grip for the snatch, if you're using your legs, you don't need your thumb.
Yeah.
And therefore, you don't need a tight grip, because that's the main thing that the thumb allows you to do. It completely encircles the handle, so you can get a pull from all the way around. It will give you a tighter pull too. So take the thumb off, and you'll get a pretty good idea of what you actually need for your grip. And it really is not that much. So I tend to be I want to be a little bit lighter on my grip, because I do want to make sure I keep the lift in my legs. Okay. I have a tendency to pull stuff with my upper body. A lot of people do. So I'll give myself a set every now and then. Thumbless, let's see what happens.
Okay. And that actually covers number 1 in the 6 pitfalls of learning to snatch, Roger. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So good work. Segue. We're professionals now. Number 2, trying to muscle it overhead. And what does that mean?
It's really what I just talked about. It's
okay. Pressing it out, or arm moving it.
Yep.
Upper body. Okay. Well then,
there is another way you can potentially muscle it overhead, and that's when you're doing a whole total body redirection. So, we talked about a pull, 2 pulls. This is more the second pull. This is the redirect, where you're actually making sure the bell stays in that nice trajectory overhead, that nice straight line. Ideally, you're going to yank. You're going to do a quick tug with the elbow, and you're going to use your back, your bicep a little bit. You're going to pull that bell back. Some people don't do that well, and often they don't do it well because they're actually using their arm to provide more of the propulsion. So if the arm is providing the propulsion, it can't tug. Your arm can't pull up and back effectively, both at the same time. right? So what they'll do is they'll tug with their arm and then they'll lean back and they'll use all the momentum of their torso to pull the bell back. A little bit is fine and actually probably efficient, but that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. So you're actually, you'll even see rotation. So if I've got a right snatch, I will pull my right shoulder. You'll see me just tug my whole body. If you're filming from the side, I will get way beyond vertical. My left shoulder will come forward. My right shoulder will come back. And a little bit of that, totally normal. But we're talking about degree. So too much is a problem.
Don't be excessive. Number 3 was rushing the bell before it's actually light. And I think that was kind of there too. Like you're waiting for it to float, waiting for the cue to yank. Number 4 is letting the bell drift far from the body. This is going to be particularly something like we talked about to consider on the way down. And we're going to cover some cues, but Roger already mentioned that big one. I think was a game changer for a lot of people when you do start to think about that tricep to the ribs and making sure you're keeping it close to the body there.
Well, let's bracket this one.
Okay,
because I want to defend that one a little bit because it has some utility. What people will often do in the beginning is they will throw the bell out and away from them. They're casting. I think we talked about this with the clean as well. It can be difficult to have the distance to create the force you need to power the bell if you don't have a lot of distance, right? So if the arm is close, you don't have the same distance, you don't have the same force. So people will cast, they'll throw it forward because they want the bell to have more room to pick up speed and to gain force. So as you're newer, you're probably going to want to cast and you're not going to be as tight on the way down. The problem with that, the upside is you're creating more force and you're making it so you can go into your second snatch. The problem is it can sometimes be hard on your wrist and your elbow, and it's harder to control. So Jeremiah and I and people who are proficient at this, coaches, we can cast all day long and we're not going to have elbow and shoulder issues because we know how the bell moves. We've been doing it long enough. We know when to reconnect, and when the bell's way in front of you, you do have a tendency to break into the backswing too soon. And that's also a problem with your back. So there's utility in doing it, and people are doing it for a reason. It's a smart thing to do, but it does cause some problems. So it's something that people will generally, I think, you do it in the beginning and then you minimize it as you get better at the lift. Yeah, because as you get better, you just know how to generate all the force with your body being active rather than having to use the momentum.
Well, and then the opposite is crashing the bell into your forearm, which is number 5 on our 6 pitfalls here. The six issues to look for. And that could come from maybe a slow punch or letting that arm get away from the body on the way up and then slowly like catching it basically. Is that what we're talking about with that? That's pretty much where it's at.
I think the crash, the crash is the reason why we started thinking about this idea of the algorithm. And the algorithm is just what do you address and when? And I'll repeat this. The common, the conventional wisdom, if you're getting a crash at the top, is that your grip is too tight. Well, it's not. And you're getting the crash for another reason. And most often it's because you're not driving the bell with your legs. So again, if you're using your arm to pull the bell up, you can't effectively redirect it. The arc gets longer or gets too long. And then you just can't control the bell. So usually that crash in your forearm, first, always check, am I driving my legs? The answer is almost always no. Mm-hmm. The second thing might be the punch. So the punch is you're driving your legs. You've got that first pull to keep it close, the second pull to redirect the bell, and it's on its way. The bell should be floating up pretty much vertically, and sometimes people don't know better and they just kind of go slowly. The bell's in place and they're just kind of meeting it right where it is. That can sometimes cause the bell to come crashing down. What I often tell people, if I know they're driving their legs, I will tell them to beat the bell to the top. So as soon as the bell is redirected and it's on its way up, your job is to get your hand there before the bell. And what usually happens is that results in a really solid punch. And back to this idea of committing, as you sit there and wait, you're going to get a crash. If you do a quick punch, the bell is going to land. It's going to land nice and softly.
All right, and then the fear and hesitation in the drop, we kind of talked about that. You're not going to fall into that category. You're letting it just you're pulling it into position basically, and then you want to make sure in the backswing you have the right connection. And this is all stuff that if you listen to the algorithm episode, it kind of puts a little bit of the check marks into your brain. You're like, oh, this is so simple now when you think about it. Because if the bell's too far away, or you didn't wait to break those hips in the backswing, like Roger mentioned earlier, then you're going to have that poor connection, and then you can't re-engineer another snatch effectively, because now you don't have the arm to body connection to transfer the force and blah blah blah.
So this is easy to diagnose. If your first snatch is good on the way up, but your second is bad, then you're probably not waiting for your arm to connect, because it should be that your second snatch is easier than your first, because you have more energy into the system, because the bell's coming from, rather than the floor, it's coming from up above your head. So when that bell is free falling, you've got all this gravitational potential energy. You've got this elastic recoil from your muscles. You've got the stretch shortening cycle, which is a quick contraction of your muscles to help you go. All that's present to a greater degree in the second snatch than the first. And this was something that really puzzled me for a long time. I couldn't quite figure out, well, why are they good here, but the second one looks like garbage? And sure enough, when I watched enough video, it's like, look at this gap. The first one, the arm to body connection is there because they're starting from the floor. The second one, it is not when they move into the backswing. So if you've essentially got a body that is trying to launch the bell, but the bell is not connected to the thing that's trying to launch it, all of the force you're generating, even though you're driving your legs effectively, all that stuff is going to be diminished. So you may have generated the right amount of force by driving your legs as hard as you can to the ground, but you don't have that connection. So you might pull the bowstring of the arrow, or of the bow, back far enough, but if the arrow's not firmly in the bowstring, you're not going to get a good shot. It's the same thing. So if you have your first snatch feels good, your second one does not, you are almost certainly not waiting long enough, and you're not reconnecting before you go into the backswing. So when you look at a skill, again, this is what the algorithm teaches you. When you look at a skill, you go back to the last thing that worked. So if everything's working on the way up, and then the second snatch doesn't work, it's like, okay, what do we miss? We miss that arm to body contact. So it has to be there on the way down to get an effective snatch on the way back up.
Very good. All right, the cues. We got 3 cues. We talked about the first one, which is the tricep to the ribs on the way down. Do you need to go into that any further, Roger? Anything else?
No, I just think squeeze the armpit.
Yeah, squeeze that armpit. Make it small. And number 2 was get heavy on the same side leg. What? Tell me about this.
Not too complicated. Assuming you're doing a single snatch, if you have a kettlebell in your right hand, guess what? There's more mass on the right side of your body. And you're going to be using that leg a little bit more than you are the left. So if that leg is going to be doing a little more work, make sure you feel really connected to it. And it might sound like a strange thing, but we don't all have an equal sense of both feet or both knees or both hips. Sometimes people feel very heavy in the left leg, but not the right, or vice versa. You can even feel this if it's really easy for you to, you pick up one leg, and let's say you're on your left leg, you pick up your right, balance, no problem. You go over to your right side, you pick up your left leg, and you fall and break your face. Well, guess what? You don't have a great sense of that right hip. Maybe you're shifted over to the left a little bit. In fact, it's kind of weird. The first time I saw this, it was demonstrated with 2 different bathroom scales. So you can do this.
Okay, I like this. Go set up the experiment.
Go to Target or wherever. Go to one of those stores where you have like just 2 basic scales. It's better if you can do it with not necessarily the digital, but they don't really make those anymore.
I know that old dial scale.
Yeah, those were great. But stand on 2 scales. Now, I weigh about 200 pounds, so each scale should read 100 pounds. But what happens if one of the scales does not register the same amount of weight? What happens if one says, 90, right? And the other one has the balance? We've got some problems. So I've got more weight on one side than the other. And it's a really freaky thing. The biggest discrepancy I've ever seen is 30 pounds, a 30-pound differential between one leg and the other.
Wow.
And a few pounds
don't
is
name
totally
any
normal.
names, but do I know them?
No, actually, it was in a workshop. It was when this thing, it was actually the first time this thing was taught to me, and I've done it a few times since. It's hard because, it's you don't always have two scales handy, but either way, we don't have an equal sense of both feet. We don't have always, the same sense. So the getting heavy on that side is you want to make sure that you really can feel that foot. So if I'm doing my right snatch, especially as I'm bringing it down and I'm going to my leg drive, I'm stomping without picking it up, I'm stomping my right foot a little bit. It'll just keep a little more weight there. It tends to minimize rotation. I get a better sense of my leg drive. And it's a more effective movement. So
right, but you're definitely not lifting that other leg off the ground. So
no, you're definitely not lifting the other leg. So
single
squeeze
leg
the armpit,
snatches.
Same side heavy.
Okay. And
works
then
for swings and all other ballistics too.
Yeah. Anytime where you're holding one kettlebell on one side. And then the third one is monitor the off arm and watch for the shimmy.
Yeah, that's not such a quick cue. All right. So again,
I didn't say these were quick cues. Okay.
I know. I wrote it. It's not as pithy as the other two.
Oh, okay.
So you have an off arm in the snatch, and that arm can be used to do a few different things. So if you swing the arm back, right, you can help generate more force for your snatches. In biomechanics, it's called summation of forces or force summation. All the force you generate can theoretically go into your lift. Now, the problem arises when the off arm swings in a way where the forces we're creating are not matching the path of the snatch. So the snatch happens in what's called the sagittal plane, forward and back. So think just straight ahead, right? When I swing my off arm, if I turn too much, then I'm creating rotational forces, and rotational forces are going to counteract those sagittal forces. And so basically I've got forces that are competing against one another. So sometimes what happens is you swing your off arm too much, and it's really great to do if you've got something with a logo on it. When you film yourself, head on, you can watch the logo move. So if I'm swinging my off arm too much and I see that logo really almost disappear, it's definitely too much. So I'm fighting against myself. What will happen sometimes is you rotate so much away from the leg, the same side heavy leg, right? If I'm doing a right snatch and I'm pulling my left arm back behind me, I'm rotating my weight away from that leg. I can't finish that until a little bit later in the lift. So what's going to happen is I've got now my left side's going to be heavier. So I'm going to drive with my left. As I drive with my left, my body's going to start to come back to square. Now I can drive my right, but my hips are not synchronized. So I'm going to do this weird shimmy thing. And it's you're going to see it at the top. A little bit is totally normal because, again, both sides are not evenly weighted. It's about degree. So pay attention to what your off arm is doing, which is usually a precursor to this weird shimmy thing, which is basically when both hips finish in standing at separate times. So it's rather than both finishing at once, it's boom, 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 boom. And if it's really bad, it's boom, boom.
Wow. Don't do that. It's boom, boom.
Exactly. You do not want to do that.
You said here, your body's probably basically in two. It's falling apart. All right. And so those are 3 cues that you can use, and they're very helpful. I think as you go down the line, they get into a little bit more intricacies as far as like how they are. I think Roger said it best. They weren't as quick and pithy as you went along, but whatever that is.
Beware the shimmy.
Beware the shimmy. Shimmy, shimmy, y'all. It's for the children, folks. All right. So let's close this out, Roger. That's a lot of snatch talk. if you can't do a snatch off of that, and watch our guide, it's in our YouTube channel here, the kettlebell guide to doing a snatch, and countless videos we posted in shorts, and I'll post a bunch of snatch ones over the course of this week so you can see it. But you have to understand that it's one thing. The snatch is the snatch. It's not the clean and the press, or the swing and the clean, and all these other things that you've got to like try to piece together while you're simultaneously doing said movement. It's one thing. Drive the legs, get that bell overhead with the redirect. Solid leg drive, what I said. Smooth redirect. Learn the path with the elevator drill for the way up, and learn the drop with the half snatch on the way down, and use those cues. Triceps to armpits, heavy on the same side legs. Quiet that off arm if it's so noisy and wild. This isn't the bull at the saddle ranch, Roger. This isn't the bull at the saddle ranch. Okay. And if you don't know, then too bad. You better get your butt to Hollywood. And then let that bell float. And the final one is scale up only when the reps and the rhythm become predictable. So don't try to rush to these heavy snatches that, might get you a few extra likes on Instagram. Those aren't really great sometimes.
I'm waiting for them to add a dislike button to that site.
Yeah. They do. I think they used to, and
people do on YouTube.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I disapprove of you.
Yeah. So that being said, go ahead and leave us a like, comment, subscribe, all these things. And if you're having issues with the snatch in particular, we're happy to extrapolate a little bit more on this in another episode. All these skills can go super deep. So feel free to comment what you need assistance with. And like we said, share the video. You can send it to us through Instagram is a super easy way, or Facebook, or whatever, email it, the Iron Revival, and we'll help you out here. Anything else, Roger?
Nope.
Okay. Don't forget to download the Bells app. Snatch your ass off. Stay strong.